writing in the health professions textbook, there is a short chapter on developing public health campaigns. In this segment, we will take an overview of exactly what public health campaigns are and how they work. As you probably have guessed, since the word public appears first, we are targeting members of the general public or lay people who do not necessarily have much medical or scientific background to inform them. Therefore, we need to use language that will not only inform our public in a way that they will understand, but also persuade them of the seriousness of the public health issue and take the appropriate action. This is a good example of a public health campaign. There is a billboard where a former smoker who has had a lung removed shows that it's necessary to take shorter breaths, and the advertisement is encouraging people to get help in quitting smoking, and as you can see, it's sponsored by the Centers for Disease Control. And this photo helps me illustrate exactly what a public health campaign is. We define it as a program intended to influence the health behavior of large groups of people, in this particular case, smokers. What's the difference between a public health campaign and health education materials? Well, they are both trying to achieve the same end result, which is to influence people to change their behavior and become aware of potential health risks. The main difference is the amount of contact with the audience. Health education materials are often passed out in doctors' offices or clinics and given to individuals one at a time. A public health campaign, however, is on a much larger scale, and as I just demonstrated, billboards are often used in public health campaigns, as well as television ads, radio ads, and other means of transmitting information to large groups of people at one time. So there are some differences in how the information is conveyed, but they do have some commonalities. In both cases, the purpose is to raise awareness of a health risk, to educate people on the benefits of a healthy lifestyle, explain the risks of unhealthy behaviors, advise types of changes, and provide resources for those who want to make the changes. So returning for a moment to our smoking example, the billboard you saw helped to raise awareness of the risk of lung cancer among smokers, to educate people on the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. Well, not having a lung removed is certainly a healthy thing. Explain the risks of unhealthy behaviors, advise types of changes, and provide resources. The CDC provided a toll-free number for those who wanted to learn more about resources available for quitting smoking. Campaign strategy characteristics. Well, mass media campaigns are low cost and reach many people through billboards, radio ads, TV, etc. School and community-based interventions require high audience involvement, but they reach fewer people. For instance, you may have participated in, or at least heard about, children being asked to design posters or prepare information about certain health risks in order to help educate others. The audience is highly involved, but apart from the community in or surrounding the school, it's not likely to reach very many people. However, campaigns can have greater impact through use of the internet. In fact, they often do nowadays. So how do we get started in developing a public health campaign of our own? Remember the project management techniques from earlier in this term. You would apply those, and you would also apply the rhetorical analysis we discussed earlier as well. You want to identify a target audience. Then develop a plan for how you're going to reach your target audience. How are you going to convey information? How would you appear as a credible source? And also, what do you want them to do with the information you're providing to them? To achieve all that, you will of course develop a plan. You will establish objectives where you define what your end goals are. Select communications channels. So how can you best reach your target audience? Do they spend most of their time online? Do they watch television more? What is it that they do? What activities do they engage in that will allow you to reach them? Also, sequence activities. Identify what you'll need to do first, what you need to do next, and so on. Produce the campaign and then evaluate the results. Are you really reaching the target audience in the way that you had hoped to? In order to do that, you want to think about your message strategy. Do you want to frighten people into modifying their behavior? Should the tone be lighter and more humorous? Who should be the messenger? To whom or to what is your target audience most likely to respond? What rhetorical appeal or combination of appeals should you use? And will everyone in your audience be able to perceive your message? That is, for instance, if your target audience includes people who are blind or deaf, will they be able to perceive your message in the way that you intended for a sighted or a hearing person?
Make sure you don't blow it, and make sure they know it. You mind very much if they smoke.
It's a matter of life and breath.
Stop smoking campaigns began. And here's another example. The previous one was rather humorous. This particular one is a bit more serious, where an individual discovers that his lungs are actually older than he is. So, in this instance, this is a website advertisement, and the user would then click to find out how old his or her lungs are, and then you could also click on some of the resources identified at the top, such as Get Help to Quit, the Lung Clock app, and etc. So you would want to test market your campaign before you actually go ahead and launch it into the wider world. By having some test marketers view and evaluate your campaign, you can find out whether it will really work. Will it have the intended effect? So by seeking honest feedback and then making adjustments based on what your test market group has told you, you can have a more effective campaign. You should also be sure your communications and visuals are not misleading in any way, since your audience is likely to pick up on that. If you'd like to learn more, here are a few resources that you can use, such as the best public health social media campaigns, which will give you some examples of how this works in practice. The Centers for Disease Control has a gateway to health communication and social marketing practice. And you can also follow a public health communication planning framework from J&B Learning.